Hello, everyone. I'm going to let just a minute go by and let some more people join us as we're about to start. Welcome to a new session of the Mid-Career Conversation Series. Today's topic is titled Building Your Legacy, the Power of Community, Passion, and Purpose, featuring storyteller Klaudia Zinaty. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Natalia Kaplan, and I will be your host today. I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone in attendance today and those that are about to join us. Some of you have attended our sessions in the past, and others may be attending their first mid-career conversation session. For those of you attending for the first time, the Mid-Career Conversations event series is a program that features a mid-career alumni storyteller sharing their own journey and highlights from their career. You will have the opportunity to ask questions and join virtual breakout rooms to discuss your own unique journey and ambitions with other York alumni. Now, as this event is virtual, and since we're not all gathered in the same space, I recognize the following land acknowledgement might not necessarily be for the territory you're currently on. If this is the case, please take the responsibility to acknowledge the traditional territory you are on and the current treaty holders. As a member of the York University community, I recognize many Indigenous nations having long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Takaranto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. The Mid-Career Conversation Series was created with alumni like you in mind. It is a special opportunity for us to come together as York alumni to share stories and experiences. First, a little bit about myself. I graduated from the Schulich School of Business at York with an MACC in 2015, and I'm proud to give back to the large community that helped launch my career. I worked for some of the world's largest corporations in entertainment and consumer products before starting my own marketing agency in 2021. Since then, we've won multiple awards, we've created lots of creative stuff, and outside of work, you'll find me at the Montreal School of Jewelry learning silversmithing or practicing aerial silks. I look forward to connecting with you in the breakout rooms or on LinkedIn. For today's conversation, our storyteller will deliver about a 20-minute talk. Then afterwards, we will take questions from you, our guests. As always, we ask that your comments be relevant and respectful. Feel free to use the chat now by entering where you're tuning in from, or even sharing your LinkedIn account. After the Q&A, we'll stop recording and move into breakout rooms for 10 minutes for the networking portion of the event, after which we will return to the main room for final remarks. You're encouraged to have your video on so that we can see each other and for the storyteller to see you as well. As per Zoom meeting etiquette, we ask that you stay on mute until the networking time. Finally, please consider editing your name to include your first name, your last name, your preferred pronouns, degree, and graduate year. So for example, for myself, Natalia Kaplan, she, her, MACC 15. You can do this by clicking rename in the Zoom menu. I'm very excited to welcome our storyteller for today, Klaudia Zinaty, president and founder of Women Empowerment Awards and the Women Empowerment Foundation. Klaudia is a leader, entrepreneur, and advocate for women's empowerment. She has led a transformative movement dedicated to amplifying women's voices and creating opportunities for success, collaboration, and growth. Welcome, Klaudia.
Hello, everyone. So lovely to meet you, and thank you for having me today. All right. Hi, just wanted to make sure everyone can hear me okay? Wonderful. So wonderful to meet all of you. I am honored to be here today to be able to talk about building your legacy and being able to talk about my own personal experience. So I will share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, wonderful. So I wanted to be able to tell you, being an alumni of York University has been a tremendous life-changing moment for me because I learned so much from being at York, and everything that I have transitioned through my journey and my path and career path has really brought me to where I am today. So one of the things I really want to talk about is the power of community, passion, and purpose. And a little bit about me before we get started. So, as I mentioned, I graduated from York University in 1995. Actually, in about 2018, York University Magazine, Deirdre actually reached out to me to do a story on me called My Way. And it was my transition of going from mathematics and education, which is uh, what I graduated in, and being able to evolve into the fashion industry. And so she wrote a wonderful article about that, which I linked in as well below that you can be able to see. But it was just being able to show the transition of what we learn at York U can actually be brought into where we are now and through our career path. So after I left York U in 95, I actually joined the NBA. Now, my career path was a little unconventional, to say the least. So coming from a mathematics background and degree, and the reason why I wanted to become a math teacher was because at that point, even early on in my career path, I wanted to be a role model for young girls in mathematics. It was really important for me to be that role model because I used to see firsthand so many girls in my high school who were afraid to raise their hand and ask questions or answer questions for the perception of how they would be appearing in the classroom or to other boys in the room. And I really wanted to kind of break that. So I decided I wanted to be able to complete my degree in mathematics and be a role model for those young girls. And so as soon as I graduated, I actually taught for a few years. And then I had this amazing opportunity to work for the National Basketball Association in marketing. And so I joined the NBA and I was there for about 9 years. And I traveled with all the 29 teams all across North America and even internationally. And after 9 years at the NBA, I decided to shift career paths and I went into broadcasting with Chum Television for a few years, working on all of the different shows like Cityline with Marilyn Dennis, and which was an amazing experience. And after Chum Television, I switched gears again and went to work for Flair magazine. And that's really where my love of fashion kind of kicked in. I saw firsthand the impressive Canadian talent that we had here and really just wanted to be more involved in that. So after 7 years at Flair magazine, I decided to venture on my own and be able to take my love for fashion at a different level. So when I had left Flair, I started to seek out different opportunities. And one of them was an organization called Fashion Group International, which was all over the world, 26 chapters. And they had a Toronto chapter. So I decided to become a member of Fashion Group International. And after 2 years of being there, I actually led the organization for a 2-year term. And that was up until 2022, which I'll mention a little bit about that story and that journey in the next little while. And from that, I evolved into where I am today, which is the president and founder of the Women Empowerment Awards and the Women Empowerment Foundation. So one of the things that really was kind of the life-changing moment for me that really impacted my life is I was driving one day with a friend of mine and we were on our way to an event in downtown Toronto and we were having this kind of deep conversation. And she had asked me at one point in the conversation, Claudia, what legacy do you want to have in this life? And it really took me a moment to kind of think about that because all the while through my career, I had always worked for different corporations, which were all amazing. I learned so many things from there, but I never actually thought to myself, what kind of footprint do I want to leave now? And what kind of footprint do I want to leave, afterwards? And so it really brought me to this kind of deep thought of where do I see myself? How do I want to be able to give back? And so that to me was the moment that I started to really put into plan, what do I want to be able to do in terms of giving back? So, most people, when they think about the legacy that they leave behind, they usually think of financial contributions, or they think about, when they're gone, what kind of legacy do people want to remember them by? But your legacy is now. It is right here, right now, and while you are living, while you are enjoying this lifetime. And so it's really important to be able to think about what kind of actions do I want to be able to have right at this very moment. And, every small action truly matters. A lot of times people think, oh, I have to do such big things and I have to be able to prepare all these things or have to make this huge major impact. And it's not necessarily true at all. I mean, every little moment, every little help that you do, every volunteer, every mentor, every conversation, all of those little things can really be able to reach it beyond yourself and be able to do it. And the last thing, which to me is one of the most important things, is making intentional choices. And the part for me that really changed is understanding that whatever I put out there into the universe, into the world, into my community is coming back to me. So really being very clear and very purposeful of what my intentions are, because if you think about it, your intentions really determine what your outcome will be. So when you live life with purpose and intention, that will really determine what the outcome in return will be. And when you start living your life and doing things with intention, it's whatever that you give and what you serve is what ends up uplifting and encouraging others and empowering others. And that's where we ended up becoming the Women Empowerment Awards. Oh, hold on, I'm so sorry, 1 second. There we go. So how did it all begin? So when I started doing the Fashion Group International, that was really the opportunity where I decided to live my life with intention. So I had left the Flair magazine. I decided to then start putting myself out there, and there was an opportunity for me to be a member of Fashion Group International. And after a year of becoming a member, I was asked to sit on the board of directors, which I did for 2 years. And then after 2 years, the head of the organization was stepping down from their term and turned to me and said, Klaudia, would this be something that you'd be interested in doing? And at the time, I was nervous, scared, because you always are when you're venturing into something new. But I thought, what do I have to lose? I mean, if you don't take a chance, then you'll never know. And so at that point, I knew that I was so excited about the fashion industry. I knew I wanted to be able to give back. I knew that I wanted to do something that was intentional and purposeful in my life. So I took over the Fashion Group International for a 2-year term. And, when you think about things that you're passionate about, you can easily be able to zone in on what is it that excites you. And I want all of you to just take a moment and think about that. Think about, what is it in your life that really excites you? Is it a hobby that you really enjoy? Is it being able to volunteer at a certain organization? Is it something that is of interest to you that, whenever you go on vacation or travel or whatever it is, what is it that excites you? What is your passion? And once you discover what that is, then the next step is to be able to develop it. How do you grow that? How do you grow that passion and nurture those interests and being able to put it to practice? So for myself, I really love the fashion industry. The minute I started working at the magazine, I knew I had found my place. And so I wanted to be able to give back in that area, which is where I went with Fashion Group International. So from that point, I was able to be in a room with very like-minded individuals and connecting with these people and building this community. And that's where the do part comes in. It's really being able to take an active role, whether you are a member, whether you are a board of director, whether you're volunteering, whether you're leading the organization. It's being able to put into practice the things that you enjoy and the things that are important. So it's being able to discover, develop, and do. And there I found my community. I had found this community of amazing individuals from all different sectors. And people think, it was designers, it was retail owners, it was people that were influencers, it was photographers, videographers, models. It was everyone that touched the industry in some way, shape, and form. And it allowed us the opportunity to connect. Now, you have to remember, this was in 2020. So imagine I get announced as the head of this organization, and 3 months later, we hit the pandemic. And at that point, that's where it really became a very pivotal point, because now what do we do, right? Everything that I had planned for 2 years that was supposed to be in person now suddenly had to go into an online platform and a virtual platform. How do you get that level of engagement? How are you able to help people in such a way? And the initiatives that I had planned had really changed because the pandemic had such an impact on so many of these businesses. So really being able to pull in the community and connect with them and being able to build relationships based on what goals they're trying to achieve, what are the strengths within that community, where can I be able to pull mentorship from, where can I be able to pull individuals to connect with one another, to collaborate so that we didn't feel alone, that we were able to all be in this together. So that's where the connection came in. And then it was being able to contribute. So finding people within that community that would be able to contribute their time, to contribute their expertise, their connections, that ability to be able to help each other succeed. And so when we were doing this, that's where the idea of we rise by lifting others, because we were all in our homes for 2 years, and many of us were really uncertain with what was happening in the world. And so there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of despair, and really being able to take that moment to be able to contribute and share with one another and also help each other out. And that's where I really saw people stepping up and people giving shout outs on social media and supporting each other and buying from each other and tagging, amazing retailers and owned businesses in order to make sure that everybody was supported in some way. And then the third part is to collaborate. And that's where the collaboration came in. That's where certain organizations and certain individuals really work together in order to do teamwork of an event or an initiative, or being able to collaborate on a product or service, being able to do things online on a virtual platform. And we started to see a lot of amazing collaborations of women getting together, of different individuals and members doing things that were, that would have been out of the norm, but they were now being able to work together and collaborate and grow together, which was amazing. And then the last part was being able to celebrate. And I think this was one of the most important things with women empowerment, especially, is that I tell women all the time within our organization that you have to empower yourself first before you can empower others. And this is really the key, because we have to have the confidence in ourselves first to be able to say, that we are able to do this, that we have overcome the obstacles, we have been able to achieve the things that we've done. And listen, we all have gone through our own personal journeys. We all have a story to share. And that, which is my favorite part. Every single person that I meet, I love hearing their stories, because even if, as you heard mine, where we started and where we are now is such a journey on its own. And you really have to celebrate every single step of that. A lot of the times we celebrate at the very end when we've achieved the goal that we wanted to achieve, or we received that recognition that we really worked hard to receive. But what about all the small steps along the way? Those are the things that we really need to celebrate, because every little step is what built the ladder up to where we are now. And I think sometimes we forget to celebrate those small steps along the way. And we really need to do that, because once we empower ourselves, then we're able to empower others around us. So success is rarely, rarely a solo journey. It really is built on community. And it's about celebrating yourself. It's about celebrating the people around you. And that's where the empowerment kicks in, and being able to empower others around you. And it really does open a lot of doors. I mean, when I take a look at the community that had been built from the organization that I was with, I was able to transition that same community and build one, and even a greater one, with what I'm doing right now with the awards and the foundation. The other thing is to be able to give back. And that again is the intention of being able to say, okay, what can I do now that I've created this? So when I had finished my 2 year term, and it was such, despite it being the pandemic, it was really a very successful 2 years, because we built a community that was probably the largest that we'd ever had in history. And it was all virtual and online. We had created things like a mentors dinner which we had 20 experts from the industry that we brought in to be able to reach out and connect with 100 of our members. And it was just an opportunity for everyone to feel unified as an actual community of like-minded individuals and professionals and supporting one another. And at that point, that was where, when I finished my term there, I really wanted to continue that. I wanted to continue that purpose, that intention. And so once that was over, I decided, seeing firsthand the impact that the pandemic had on so many women, and really just seeing the numbers of individuals. When you take a look at the statistics at the time, you're talking now, 2020 to 2022, the number of women compared to men that were let go or laid off from their jobs across Canada was 72% compared to men. And 350,000 women were let go or laid off. And so when you take a look at those staggering numbers, you really start to realize what an impact it had on so many women, especially women entrepreneurs. So I wanted to be able to create some type of platform using what I had learned from my previous role that I had with the non-for-profit in the fashion industry, to be able to celebrate these women, to uplift them, to inspire them, to be able to put a spotlight on them, and be able to give them that opportunity to have a platform to share their voices and their journeys, and be able to share in their success. And so I created the Women Empowerment Awards in 2022. And I'll be completely honest, when we talk about, fear of trying to something new, it's one thing when it's an organization that's already established in 26 countries and chapters all over the world. When you're doing it your own, again, it's that leap of faith. It's being able to have that confidence to be able to try something that's outside of your comfort zone and being able to do it on your own. And so I took all of the skills and the knowledge and the community that I had built, and I had transformed it into this initiative. And knowing that we were just coming out of the pandemic, I was like, are people going to show up? Are people going to want to talk to people and engage with one another? Or are people still going to be really nervous? And so what ended up happening is I thought, okay, we'll start small. We'll do 150. That should be good. And 150 ended up being 250 in our first year. Because the demand was so high, we decided to expand even further within our first year. We sold out 3 months in advance with our first awards at 250 women. Year 2, we decided to expand further. We went to 350 women. Last year, we were at 450, and this year we're growing even more. And it really is because it's the power of giving back. It's things like personal growth and being able to do things like volunteering within your community. It literally takes such little time. And that's one of the things that I've learned, is that, 15 minutes to give someone your time, or 30 minutes to be able to sit down and have a virtual coffee chat or a conversation, means the world to someone, could be life-changing to someone. Being able to make an introduction to them, to someone that, could help further their businesses or careers, is life-changing for them. So being able to volunteer your time or your skills or your connections in order to be able to benefit others is huge. And skill and enhancement is really being able to do the passion projects. If I had not taken the role with leading this non-for-profit organization in the fashion industry, I would not have learned everything that I needed to learn in order to be able to create one on my own. So when, we say that these opportunities happen for a reason, they're all with purpose. And so the purpose of being able to do this was because everything that I had learned, I was able to now utilize to establish my own organization and my own charity foundation. So it does allow you to practice and be able to do that in a low risk environment. And the reason why it was low risk is because it didn't belong to me. It was someone else's. So we always had our head office, which was a huge support team, to be able to manage or be able to seek out any kind of advice or guidance. So that was able to help me. But now being able to learn things on my own, it's ever growing, ever evolving, and continuous learning. And then obviously the last thing is having the lasting impact. So knowing that your actions that you do creates a wave of positive change that continues the journey. And one of the things that we did last year is, after we established in 2022, one of the things that was really important to me was to be able to create a charity foundation. So last year we were certified as a charity, and as soon as we got the certification, which was in August of last year, one of the things I wanted to be able to do right away is create scholarships for young girls that were from marginalized communities that wouldn't be able to continue their education by providing them with scholarship grants. So within a 6-week turnaround time, we were able to establish scholarship grants for young girls all across Canada in the areas of STEM and entrepreneurship. And so we wanted to be able to give back, and that is something that we want to be able to continue to do to create a lasting impact in our community. So there we are with our Women Empowerment Awards. This was our very first year, and this was our sign, and really being able to put purpose to action. So understanding what your why is. So what is the impact that you want to have? What problems do you need to solve? And so when I started these awards, as I mentioned, the important thing for me was to be able to uplift these women, empower them, give them an opportunity to have their businesses shine, to put a spotlight on their businesses and on their careers. A lot of the times so many women struggle to be able to level up within their companies. So I wanted to be able to provide them that type of acknowledgement, that celebration, to be able to go back to their companies and be able to say, I was acknowledged for being a woman who empowered others in my field. So being able to understand what your why is, and then align your activities, evaluate what is it that you do now and the community that you're in that can support your purpose. So by understanding that, that will help you align with the interests that you have, the passion that you have, and the community that you build to be able to support this purpose of what you want to be able to do. And then the next step would be to take action. And that is being able to do one small step that leads to the next and next. So again, it's the ripple effect. It doesn't have to be you're going to change things overnight, but every small step is a step forward towards your ultimate goal. And then the last step is really to build accountability. So being able to share your goals with your mentors and individuals in order to support the journey. So after I had a year under my belt, it was easy to be able to go out to people and show them, this is what we did. These are images from what we did. This is the press coverage that we were able to receive. These are the organizations that supported us. So when you have that, that is your accountability, that you're able to bring other people on board. So to give you an example, in our first year when we started, we had a total of 3 major sponsors. And in our next year, we had 8. And last year we had 13. So every year we were able to utilize the impact that we had and be able to grow with more sponsorship, because we were able to show them the impact that we were making in our community and the impact we were making to all these amazing women all across Canada. Now, how do you create your legacy? And again, we're talking about now. We're not talking about afterwards. We're talking about what can we do today in creating a legacy that lasts. So start today. And again, it's nothing that has to be, that has to be the end product, but being able to think about what it is that you love to do. How do you love being able to give back? What is it that you're really good at? And being able to really zone in on those things that you are good at, and being able to say, okay, if I'm really good at this, how can I contribute that skill, that knowledge, that expertise to be able to help others? So really making very intentional choices to serve others that are greater than your own. And then being able to connect your passion with purpose, which is finding that excitement and being able to find that intersection where your excitement and your purpose meet, and building your community, which then builds your impact. So surround yourself with amazing people who elevate your vision, but also help you extend your reach. And again, that is where you're building that community. So bringing people on board under your board of directors that will really help extend that reach, bringing volunteers on board that want to be able to help with your cause, who believe in your cause and want to be able to give back as well. And then taking that next bold step. So what action will you do today that will help you create that lasting legacy? So my final thought to you is really being able to share one of the things that is one of my favorite quotes, which is that your legacy begins the moment that you make a decision, which is a decision of how you will use everything that you have been given to serve that which is greater than yourself. So I hope that that was very insightful to you. And I really want you to be able to walk away thinking about what is it about yourself that you can contribute in the now to be able to help others, and that you can be able to serve that of which is greater than yourself. And with that, I want to be able to say thank you. Now, with our Women Empowerment Awards, if any of you are interested in nominating, I do want to mention that our awards and nomination process is now officially open. We actually open every year on International Women's Day, and our deadline is May 31st. We hold the awards every year in September. So this year it is at the Park Hyatt Toronto on September the 26th, and you can go onto our website to learn more. If you would like to nominate yourself or an empowering woman that you know who deserves to be recognized, a woman who has inspired you, who has motivated you, who's mentored you, who has just been an amazing woman who has overcome so many obstacles and barriers that you feel deserves to have her moment in the spotlight, then this is your opportunity to be able to nominate as many women as you like. And don't forget to nominate yourself. And you're able to do that. And our deadline is May 31st. And if you'd like to learn more, there's our Instagram handles as well. So thank you all for your time. It was an honor to be here and an honor to be a York University alumni, and looking forward to being able to meet all of you in the room and learn more about each and every one of you.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for sharing that story, for such actionable steps that we could all take as well to leave that legacy to help our communities. So thank you so much. I'm going to actually open up things for questions. So if anyone would like to add add a question for the Q&A, please go ahead and add that in the chat function, and we'll be starting off right away. I actually have a couple of questions for you already off the bat, so I'm going to take advantage of being a host and start off with that if you don't mind.
Of course.
You mentioned quite a few different career paths and directions, and you mentioned it's non-traditional. So I'd love to ask, out of all of your career paths that you've done, which one was the most rewarding?
Wow, that's a great question. For me, I think every single one is rewarding in its own individual way. So I think that, when I worked at the NBA, that I learned so much through that experience, and then being able to be in broadcasting taught me a great deal, and publishing and such. I think for me now, at the point in the career that I am, is that in those different types of career paths, I was always working for someone else. And now that I'm doing something that is really fully my own, that to me is the most rewarding, because I can see firsthand the impact that it's having on so many women who are being recognized, who are being able to utilize the platform to grow their businesses or grow their careers, and seeing these amazing young girls getting a further education
Mhm.
because of our charity initiatives that we're doing. So that to me is the most rewarding, is being able to see firsthand the impact that these awards and this foundation has on so many women.
Absolutely. And you know what? As someone with also a non-traditional background, I find often I get that question of, um, did you feel like you've wasted your time before? But I think you've already hit the note that everything that you do, it has a lesson, it has an impact, it helps shape you in some way as well, brings you other mentors you might not normally see.
It really does. And it's interesting because so many of the connections that I've made, I'm still in contact with. And that's one of the things too
Mhm.
that many people don't realize. They think that, oh, it was such a, non-traditional career path, but those connections that you make follow you throughout your career as well. So it's a wonderful journey.
Absolutely, totally agree with that. You know what? Speaking of that journey, have you ever pursued something you were passionate about, but then faced setbacks? How do you overcome something like that?
So, well, you know what? I mean, a great example of that would have been when I started to lead the fashion group organization and the pandemic hit. I mean, when you go through a whole 2 year of pre-planning, which was
Mhm.
planned the year before, and then suddenly something like this happens, that's so life-changing. It really does create quite the setback. But at that point you reach out to your community, and that's where the empathetic and the listening comes in. And it's so important to listen, to be able to see, like, what does your community need? What is it right now that they're struggling with? And that's what we did. We actually, we reached out to our community and we said, how can we help? What do you need? And all of them said, we need help with connecting, communicating, being able to find mentorship, being able to do things like coffee chats, even if it's virtual. We just need to keep those connections alive, and being able to learn about how to go from a brick and mortar into a digital space. So by listening to what the community was requiring at that time, we were able to build initiatives from an online virtual platform to be able to meet those needs. So that's really important to be able to do. So that was a huge setback for us, but then we took that setback and we made it into a comeback. And actually, by the time we were finished our 2-year term that I was leading, we actually won an award for a Merit Award of Excellence out of all 26 chapters for our 2 years of programming, because that's why, because I had such a phenomenal board of directors, and being able to listen to our community and meet their needs.
Wow, that's so inspiring. And I think, the pandemic obviously brought a lot of devastation and change. At the same time, I think it was a moment of vulnerability for all of us where we were given that space to ask for something. And a lot of companies, people, mentors were asking as well how they could give back. So I think it'd be nice to know, how do we continue that energy of giving back? You had mentioned obviously leaving a legacy. So maybe that's a segue for you there is, how do we continue giving back and still sustain ourselves, but also maintain our pathways as well?
You know what, giving back can be in so many different ways. It really is. It's just giving people your time. And that's really what it is. It's just either giving your time, giving people your time, and being able to listen to what is happening out there and being able to volunteer. So it could be volunteering at a non-for-profit. It could be being able to reach out to different organizations and say, I have a background in marketing. How can I help? Or I have a background in public
Mm,
relations, something that aligns with your passion. So when I was really passionate about the fashion industry, I started looking at all the different organizations that were out there, and I thought, okay, which one can I be able to volunteer at? And that's what I started to do. So I reached out to Toronto Fashion Incubator, and I said to her, how can I help you? What do you need help with? And she said, well, I'm celebrating my 30th anniversary, and we're really struggling to get sponsorship. Could you help us do that? And that's what I did. I started to reach out to different organizations and see if we could help them with sponsorship. And then there
mhm,
was another initiative that I did where they wanted to be able to create, 150 years of Canada's birthday, and they wanted to bring in all of these amazing designers to celebrate. So I started to bring in the designers through the connections that I had. So that's the thing, is that we all know something. We all either
mhm.
have connections, we have a skill set, we have background and knowledge in some type of area or multiple areas. So we can give back in so many different ways. It's just a matter of, how do you want to be able to give back? So being able to think of it in terms of that way, and then reaching out to different organizations that are out there, and they need it. They really do. There's so many organizations that would be thrilled to have experts and being able to have extra hands to help out with their programs and initiatives.
That's so powerful. I think sometimes we kind of get stuck in that mindset of giving back requires money or it requires that I have to go do XYZ. But the reality is, we could give back in a way that is aligned with our passions and our skill sets. So, absolutely. Um, while we're here, let's talk about, do you believe, we mentioned passion and serving and passion, but do you believe passion alone is enough to achieve success, or does it require something more?
I think passion's a great start for sure. I think you need to have passion. I think finding mentorship, so being able to
Mm,
find someone that you admire, that you look up to, I think is really important, because when you have good mentorship as well, that also helps you with your career path and being able to grow. Find your community. Community is so important, because that is really the network that you have and that you build. So being able to build an amazing community, or have a community of people, they say when you surround yourself with amazing, empowering women, you really are unstoppable. Like anything is possible. And I truly believe that. And so when I was leading the non-for-profit before I started my own, I put together an amazing team of board of directors that really were experts in every single area. So I had an expert in public relations that was really strong in public relations. I had another person that was really great with budgeting and being able to do finance. I had another person that was fantastic in outreach with the community, and another individual that was great with marketing and graphics. And when you bring all these people together, it's incredible what you can build. So building that community, and it doesn't have to be huge. It could be, 10 people, could be 5. But when you surround
Mhm.
yourself with amazing, inspiring, and empowering people, then you can be able to do anything. It really is just endless opportunities.
Yes. Oh, community makes such a huge difference, not just in terms of skill sets and in terms of support, but just having someone who has your back that you know that you can lean on when times are tough or even when times are going well, that will constantly push you forward is such a huge source of energy, at least for myself as well. So I think such a powerful message. And I do think, and I'm not sure if you felt that way, but as an entrepreneur, I found that asking for help sometimes almost feels shameful to almost suggest like, oh, I'm not strong enough to keep going and doing this. But the reality is asking for help is what could sustain you on a long-term basis as well.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's interesting that you say that, because that's one of my biggest things that I always tell people. I always say to them, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no.
Yes.
Always be no. So there is no harm in being able to ask, because if you don't, your answer is always going to be no. So, and it doesn't hurt to ask. So I will do an ask. And if I get a no, no problem. But I know that at least I asked. But a lot of the times when we ask, we actually get a yes. But it's just that fear of asking. Again, it's like you said, you fear being perceived as weak, but it's not at all. It's being able to say, hey, you know what? I'm an expert in this, and knowing what you're an expert in, but you're not going to be an expert in everything. None of us are perfect. We're all
Yes.
growing, we're all evolving, we're all continuously being able to learn more about ourselves. But the thing is not knowing what your strengths are personally, but knowing what other people's strengths are, and being able to ask them to help you in those areas where you know that you don't have the strength to do. And I think that that's the most important thing, is being able to have that confidence to know I'm good at this, but I could really
Mhm.
use help in this, and being able to
Yes.
ask.
That's it. It's an automatic no unless you actually ask the question. That's really the moral of it is.
Yes.
So while we're on the subject of, I guess, growth, let's talk about a little bit of that. How do you intentionally build those relationships? How do you find those people that could actually help you support you and your personal growth and your professional growth? How do you find your group, your community?
And a lot of it's just like, going to networking events. So I think finding out the area that you love, and it could be anything. It could be within your field, like if you're in engineering, if you're in research, if you're in medicine, if you're in business, being able to attend events and making those connections, I think are so important, because that's the first step, is putting yourself out there. I'll tell you a very interesting story. So when I left the Flair magazine, and I decided I wanted to venture on my own. At that point, I had worked my career path had been working for others, and I was like, okay, I want to do something on my own. And I was literally like a fish out of water. I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember going to, at the time there was the Toronto Fashion Week, and, thousands of people, and I didn't know anyone, absolutely no one. And I really felt completely out of place. Even though I worked for a fashion magazine, you have to remember I'm like behind the scenes. So, working behind the scenes is different than when you're in front of the camera or on television and such. So I really didn't know anyone. And I remember saying to myself, I'm going to come back a year from now, and instead of me not knowing anyone, I want people to be able to know me. And so a colleague of mine had invited me to this event and said to me, I want you to do something for me. And this was one of my mentors had said to me, I want you to do something for me. He said, I'm going to invite you to an event in the next 2 days. It was in 48 hours. And he said, I want you to come with a business card that you're going to create on your own, come up with a title, a business card, and I want you to go around and I want you to introduce yourself to people. And I was like, okay. So I went home and I thought, okay, what background do I have? What skill set? What do I want to call myself? What is my title going to be? And so I came up with this title, and it was marketing and media strategist. And because that was my background in marketing and media with the NBA and in television and broadcasting. And so I showed up 48 hours later at this event of hundreds of people. And he said to me, well, and he went like this, and I handed him my business card. And that's where it all began. And I went around and I introduced myself and I handed up my business card and I said what I did. And that was kind of the first step. Fast forward a year later, I'm at the same event, and now people were coming up to me and saying, how are you? And everyone knew who I was, because that's what happens when you start going to events and you start to make those connections, and they're relevant, important connections, that's where people start to see the familiarity of you being at these different events and being able to show your face and being known, that by the time, a year goes, you become like almost like a fixture in that industry because people know who you are. And I think that's really important to be able to do that. So that was, like, to me, the biggest thing. So I would say put yourself out there, join different events, if you can, online or even in person, but start making those connections, because what happened was, through those connections, when I started my own initiative, those are the people I reached out to and I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm starting this, and this is why I'm starting it. Again, your purpose, your why. I'm starting it because of this. This is what I noticed during the pandemic. This is why I want to do this. This is why I'm so passionate about doing this. Will you join me? And the number of sponsors that said, I'm in, the number of individuals that said, how can I help? And it was phenomenal. Like I said, in our first year, we sold out 3 months early of all of our ticket sales in June when our event was in September. And that really showed me the power of, making those connections and networking.
I love that. And also, what a perfect segue, actually. Speaking of building our community and networking, we're actually going to shift into the networking portion of our event. So, in a few moments, you'll see a prompt on your screen to join a breakout room with 2 or 3 other alumni. We will have an icebreaker question as well that will be broadcast should you choose to use them. And you'll have about 10 minutes to connect, and then we'll invite you back to the main room for final remarks. So looking forward to connecting with all of you. Make your communities, build your networks, and see where that goes for you as well. So see you all in a minute. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to give a few more seconds as I could see that some people are still in their breakout room. All right. I hope everyone had a chance to meet. Feel free to add your LinkedIn, any other contact information in the group chat if you want to connect with people. I'm sure a lot of us would love to continue our conversations that we started. So thank you again to Klaudia Zinaty for joining us today and sharing some of her great insights on networking, on building communities as well, and leaving a legacy. That concludes our mid-career conversation virtual event. Thank you all for attending, and we look forward to hosting you at our next session. And you know what? If you're looking for more opportunities for growth, learning, and networking, like we learned today, we have an exciting event lineup scheduled for the next few weeks. On Saturday, March 22nd, the York Circle Lecture Series and Lunch will be back on Kiel campus. On Tuesday, March 25th, we have the York U Career Webinar, Navigating the Career Market. And on Wednesday, March 26th, you could join us for a special in-person edition of Scholars Hub at Unionville branch of the Markham Public Library. And last but not least, on Wednesday, April 9th, if you're in the Mississauga area, we invite you to our alumni mixer in Mississauga for an evening of mingling and networking with other alumni. So lots of events coming up. I hope to see some of you at some of these events. And if not, we will see you at the next mid-career conversation. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.